So we have been discussing Nagmandala by
Three.
Girish Karnad. In our last lecture, we discussed the personality of Karnad, his career as a writer, as a dramatist, right? And later on we discussed his style
Yes.
also. Then we saw that how he uses local myths, folks in his writing with a modern touch. In the last lecture, we started discussing the main characters in the present drama. We discussed the first character, that is the protagonist, and her name is Rani.
Rani.
And we saw that Rani is a young girl who had just married, and she is a very Sati Savitri type of a woman. She is very
Yes.
submissive, she is very silent, and she uh, marries with the second character of our drama, that is Apanna. As we know that Rani is the only daughter of her parents, and her father, just like a typical Indian father, asks Rani to marry Apanna as he was the only child of his parents and he has enough money also. So Rani, with full expectations, she comes to live with her husband Apanna in her in-laws house. Right. So later
Yes.
on we discussed the second character, that is the husband of Rani, Apanna. We come to know that all the expectations of Rani as a newly wedded girl comes to an end. She is frustrated and she is shocked, right? Because of the strange and tyrannical behavior of her husband, that is Apanna. We saw that Apanna, a young man, unfortunately, his parents are no more. He is a wealthy person, but he is having a loose character, right? Even before the marriage and even after the marriage, he continues his addiction to visit concubine, means prostitutes, every night, right? And we are surprised that he continues his bad habit to visit concubine, means prostitute, even after marriage. So he marries Rani, but he is not ready to give her the status of a wife. And it's a strange behavior of Aparna that what he does, he locks her up in the house in night, and in the night she is alone and comes back next day for lunch only. So for the whole night and for the half of the day, he is with the concubine, right? And he comes at the house just for having lunch only, right? As you know that he changes his mind and behavior in the course of the story. We would see what are the reasons of the changes in his behavior later on. So Apanna is, in the very beginning, is a very cruel husband who tortures and insults a very young and beautiful bride, that is Rani. Later on, we discussed the next character, that is Kurudava. As we know that Gurudava was an
Gurudava.
elderly woman and she was an old friend of Appanna's parents. And Gurudava is very sympathetic to Rani and gives her support. And Gurudava is the only character with whom Rani can share her feelings, Rani can share her mind. right? And Kurudava, whenever finds a time, secretly goes to meet Rani, and Rani feels comfortable in her company. And Kurudava suggests her some trick and offers her a love route. A love route. We will see later on what kind of love route is that, right? I hope characters are clear to you. Is it?
Yes, sir. Yes.
One more character is there, and that's the most important, like Rani's character, and that character is the Naga, that is the King Cobra, right? But the Naga or the King Cobra in our story, in our drama, is not an ordinary snake, but this Naga or this King Cobra has some supernatural powers. In the last lecture, I used the term Ichhadhari Nag, right? So
Yes.
the Naga in our present story is nothing but the Ichhadhari Nag over here. So Ichhadhari Nag type of Naga we have, and who can adopt any human body, any. Okay. So after having love roots, he started loving Rani. See, a love between a snake and a human being. It is so surprising, isn't it? And
Yes.
after having a male body, he sleeps with Rani, makes her pregnant, right? And later on saves Rani in chastity test. We would see what kind of chastity test it is in our discussion of the story. So at the end, the Naga is jealous of Rani's love for her husband and wants to kill her, but changes his mind, and finally, at the end of the story, he unites with Rani. Right. So, in the present story, we can say that there is a love triangle. Right. So, Rani, Naga, and husband of Rani, that is Apanna. And
Apanna.
Rani is the center. Right. So, Naga starts loving Rani, right? But that love is having a different face. Rani has no idea that Naga has changed his body, right? And can you guess whose body it could be? The Naga
Apanna.
adopted. Yes, yes,
Apanna's body, maybe.
yes, exactly. You're right. Right. So Naga adopts the body of Apanna and sleeps with her, makes her pregnant, isn't it? But our heroine, our protagonist, Rani, has no idea of it, right? So, should we move forward towards the story?
Yes, sir.
Okay, the story happens to some rural village, right? And in that village, we find a small house. That house is isolated from the main colony of the village, and in that house, there lives a couple, that is Apanna and Rani. Aparna and Rani are a newly married couple, and Aparna is young man having enough money to spend. His parents are no more, right? So they both live all together in that house. Rani expects love and care from her husband as she received from her father, right? The third character, that is the old lady, that is Kapanna, sorry, Purdava.
Old lady. Apanna नाही
Yes,
ना
Purdava.
Purdava.
Kurtawa lives near the house of Rani. And as we discussed in the character introduction, that Appanna has a very bad habit to visit concubines, means prostitutes. And he continues his bad habit even after the marriage. So, Rani for Appanna is not a wife, she is just a maid for him. And he got a wife just to cook food and to look after the house only. So, Apanna never looked at the face of Rani, never looked at the body of Rani. He even does not touch Rani's body. Right? And we are surprised, we are shocked even that every night he locks Rani in the house all alone and he comes back the next day at the time of lunch only, right? And after having lunch, he again visits the concubine in the night. So Rani gets no love, care, and attention from her husband. And as I told you that just like a very typical Indian Sati Savitri type of a woman, she never objects. She expects this as her fate, as her luck, bad luck. And she does not utter a single word against it. Right? So she remains submissive, she remains faithful to her husband, even though her husband is not faithful. Right? So the story moves ahead. Rani is very silent, and the husband is very ignorant to his wife. And the husband is also ill-tempered, short-tempered, right? Tyrannical, we can call. And his, what you say, treatment to Rani is also not good. He uses harsh words, very harsh words to Rani. We can have the example. Look, I don't like idle chatter. Here, idle means useless or passing the time chatter, right? So don't talk more. That's the warning by the husband to Rani. Don't talk more, right? Do as you are told. You understand? Do as you told means follow my instructions, follow my orders. You don't have any freedom to open your mouth, isn't it? So
Yes.
cruelties are we can see over there. So domestic violence, domestic exploitation by a male. So Rani's husband Apanna goes out every night, as we know, just uttering, well then, I will be back tomorrow at noon. Keep my lunch ready. I shall eat and go. Right. So for Apanna, the house is not a house. It is just a dining room, a hotel for him. Whenever he leaves for the concubine, whenever he leaves to visit a prostitute, his warning is what to Rani? Well then, I will be back tomorrow at noon. Keep my lunch ready. I shall eat and go.
Go.
So this kind of relationship, horrible relationship, we can see over here. And we are also surprised that Rani even does not speak a single word. She has no objection. So she is having a Pati Parmeshwar type of feeling in her mind, as we find in most of the married houses, right? So a typical husband who tortures his wife, a typical wife who is very faithful to her husband, we see over here. And this is the beginning of the story.
Mm.
As we know that Aparna is rich but has no interest in running. And he is interested into a concubine. He forces her to be alone at home without any love. And as his parents are already dead, there is nobody to tell him the difference between a wife and a concubine. So nobody is there to guide to Aparna that Rani is his wife and what kind of behavior is expected from a husband, right? Nobody is there to guide Aparna like that. So, like many Indian men, he considers his relationship with a concubine a normal thing. See, very surprising. So, according to Aparna, it's a normal thing, it's a normal practice in Indian, what you say, houses in Indian society to visit prostitutes, isn't it? So, he's very shameless, we can call it. He never ashamed of it. And this absence of this, what to say, bonding between husband and wife makes the married life meaningless. Right, so Rani is nothing but a housemaid to the hero, right, who must cook for husband and feed him every afternoon. And that is the only duty of Rani, just to cook food and feed her husband every afternoon and none other than. So the prince of her dreams, the prince of Rani's dreams, who was to bring her to his house, turned into a demon. So Aparna is not a husband, he is simply a demon, a Rakshas, we call him. But as we know that Rani is very submissive, very silent, a Sati Savitri type of a woman. She never objects and utters a single word against her husband. So she tolerates everything. And like an ideal woman, she is very modest, unquestioning, uncomplaining, is locked in an empty house. Isn't it so shocking and surprising also? Rani behaves like a traditional Indian woman who fears to do any act against her husband, right? So she is scared of her husband, like that. So Rani is a sensible woman who does not think of breaking the sacred relationship, pious relationship of marriage with her husband. She even tries to please her husband, but fruitless. So Rani, on the other hand, tries to attract the attention of Aparna towards her. She feels that if she shower love to Aparna, then he would not go to concubine. But even though she tries her level best, she fails to do so. So Aparna rejects the love appeal of Rani and continues his bad habit to visit concubine. Even Aparna fails to see and fails to enjoy the youth and beauty of Rani. So he keeps his wife under lock and keeps on visiting concubine. So we feel sorry for the tragic situation of Rani over here. As we said, that Rani becomes a maid servant in her own house. And what are her duties? She sweeps, she mops the floor. Do you know mopping the floor? What is mopping? Mop, M-O-P.
फरची पुसणं.
Yes, mopping the floor, scrubs, utensils. Here, utensils means the floor, pots, bhandi.
भां- भांडे.
Cook the food and obeys Aparna's command for a meal. So
मेल.
these are the responsibilities of Rani. So she is nothing but a maid servant to Aparna. Right. Sometimes Rani gets a chance to chat with old Gurudava. As we know that she is having a friendly relationship with Gurudava, the old lady, and Gurudava has a great stock of sympathy for Rani's situation. And Gurudava is the only person she can meet. And whenever Gurudava gets a chance, gets it gets some time, she visits the house of Rani and chats with her. And in her company, Rani feels a little bit comfort. Right. So Rani shares with Kurdava that her husband speaks to her only in words like "do this, do that," and serve the food. So even as if Rani is the slave, Gulam. So see how harshly he behaves with Rani. Do this, do that, and serve the food. These are the only words and sentences that he speaks to Rani over here. And she is scared during the night. She tells Kurdava that she is afraid of the darkness in the night as she is alone in the house, locked up inside. And she is locked in the house, she is not able to meet anybody. So loneliness is now the fate of Rani. So she suffers from loneliness, she suffers from what you say, rejection by her husband. So very painful situation is there. And Rani describes her situation to Kurdava. See the words. Apart from him, you are the first I have seen since coming here. I am bored to death. There is no one to talk to. Right? So she explains to Kurdava that her life is nothing but a death-like situation. Death. As she is lonely in the house, nobody is there to whom she can talk. I am bored to death. Right? It's a hell-like life she is having. She continues that I am so frightened at night. I can't sleep a wink. Means I cannot sleep for a single minute. She describes her painful situation to Kurdova. As she is alone in the house, full darkness is there, she is alone, she is young and beautiful, and she is doubtful regarding her safety. But see, her husband is totally ignoring even her safety also. Right? So she expresses her mind to Kurdava, and Kurdava expresses sympathy to her, and Kurdava wants to change her situation. Kurdava wants to help her. What happens then? Kurdava was an elderly woman and she was old friend of Aparna's parents. She suggests some tricks to Rani to make her husband her lover. And Kurdava is having a secret trick to attract the attention of the husband. And what is that trick? Kurdava brings some roots from jungle and she calls that root as a love root, as a love root. And
Lovely.
Kurdava tells Rani that whoever consumes, eats that root, that person immediately falls in love with you. Right? So that can be called as a magical root. And Kurdava asks Rani to mix the love root in the food of Aparna.
Aparna.
After consuming that food, automatically Aparna would start loving Rani and her situation would be changed, isn't it? So she offers the magical roots to Rani and Rani, having no other option, tries to and decides to follow this trick, right? And she holds those roots in her hand and she starts thinking what to do, whether to offer those roots in the form of food to her husband or not, right? What would happen if her husband eats those roots? So, what you say? A confusion is going on in her mind regarding the effects of the root. And having no other option, she does what? She makes the roots into a liquid form, right? And mixes that liquid of the root in the food of Aparna, right? But at the same time, she is scared, she is afraid of the feeling that what would happen if he consumes such kind of a food, he consumes that root. She fears that it could have a bad effect on his health. Right? It was her, what to say, fear. हे खाल्ल्यानंतर माझ्या नवऱ्याची तब्येत बिघडू शकते, खराब होऊ शकते, तो आजारी पडू शकतो, अशा प्रकारची भीती तिच्या मनात येते. पण असं काही होत नसतं. राईट? उर्दवा informs Rani that these roots are safe, but still Rani is not sure about the effect of the roots. So what she does, out of fear, she does not offer that food to Apanna. Right? And on the contrary, she secretly throws, or let's say pours, that food or that curry into the ant hill. She throws that food into the ant hill. What is the meaning of ant hill?
वारुळ.
Yes, वारुळ.
मुंग्यांचं वारुळ.
Yes, मुंग्यांचं वारुळ. What happens? What is the Indian? Yes. What is the Indian myth regarding the ant hill? Though the ant hill is developed by ants, we Indians feel that the snake. Yes, we feel it's a myth. We feel that the snakes live in the ant hill, but actually in the ant hill only ants live over there. भारतीय गैरसमज काय आहे, मिथ काय आहे, की त्या वारुळामध्ये कोण राहतं तर साप राहतो. पण ऍक्च्युली काय होतं, तिथे साप राहतो का? नाही,
तो बिळात राहतो.
येस, ते बिळात राहतं. पण ऍंट हिल म्हणजे वारुळ हे कोण बांधतं तर मुंग्या बांधतात. आणि वारुळ जरी खोदलं आपण तरी सुद्धा तिथे मुंग्याच राहतील, साप सापडणार नाही. बरोबर आहे?
नाही.
आणि साप आणि मुंग्या हे एकत्र राहू शकत नाही. Still, we are so smart that we pour milk on the day of Naga Panchami, and we have a myth in our mind that Naga would come out of the ant hill and drink that milk, isn't it? But we are surprised to know that the Nagas, the snake, don't drink milk at all. सायन्स काय म्हणतं? साप कधीही दूध पित नाही. कधीच पित. आणि जर पिला तर केव्हा पिणार? जेव्हा त्या सापाला उपाशी ठेवलं जातं. राईट? So if a snake starts drinking milk, it means that snake is very hungry. Okay? Science has proved it. If you have any doubt, you can Google it. Right? So milk is not the natural food of a snake. So it's a myth in the mind of Indians. That's why we pour or we offer milk to a snake. Right? So let's move towards the story once again. And having a doubt regarding the effect of the love root on the body of her husband, what she does, she throws that liquid, she throws that food, yes, on the ant hill. And you can guess what could happen then. काय घडलं असेल बरं पुढे?
त्या सापाने ते दूध ती भाजी खाल्ली असेल and he falls in love with Rani.
Exactly. The same case happens. Now, the effect of love root is there, right?
Okay.
The king cobra in the ant hill tastes that liquid and starts loving Rani. So, a love relationship between a naga, that is the king
And a
cobra, and a
woman.
human being, Rani, that's a woman, right? So, we can say this is a turning point in the story, isn't it? It starts the conflict in the story over here.
Yes.
And let me tell you that this cobra is not an ordinary cobra. This cobra is having some magical or let's say supernatural powers. And this magical cobra can assume any body, any human body, right? And we have one more myth is there regarding this. That is called Ichhadhari Nag. That kind of naga
Hmm.
can have the physical incarnation of any human being in the world, right? So now the naga, the snake in the story, is mad for Rani, right? He starts loving Rani very much. And what happens? Naga now enters into the house, and Naga is so smart that Naga wants to have love and sex with Rani.
Rani.
And Naga gets the human shape of Apanna, right? And when Naga enters into the house of Rani, Apanna, as usual, is not there, right? So he
Yes.
takes the body of Apanna and stands in front of Rani, right? So Rani has no such kind of idea that the person who is standing in front of her is not her husband but a snake, a snake, right?
Snake.
And to the surprise of Rani, what happens? The snake in the form of Apanna hugs Rani, right? Isn't it shocking to Rani? Hey man,
Yes,
what is
of course.
happening today over here? Right? This man was not ready to look at me, right? And today, this man is doing what? He is hugging me. He is kissing me, isn't it? He is touching my lips. He is touching my cheeks. He is touching my back. And he is, what to say, uh, keeping his fingers into my long, thick hair. So Rani is so much surprised, shocked to see a totally changed behavior of Aparna. And Rani is so much happy. And instantly she forgets all the tortures given by her husband till yesterday, right? And she readily accepts the love of Aparna. And as we know that she is very hungry. She is very hungry. And she readily accepts
Hungry.
the love of Aparna. But she has no idea that with whom she is hugging is not her husband, but a snake in disguise. Disguise means Veshantar, right? And that is the time of the night, as we know that Aparna is missing. Aparna must have been where? In the company of the concubine. And the Naga takes the benefit of this, and what he does, Naga sleeps with Rani. And there is a physical relationship, sexual relationship between Rani and the Naga. Rani feels that original Aparna is with her, right? Like that. So it is the reality that it is Naga in the form of Apanna, right? So it is the daily practice. It becomes a habit of the Naga to visit the house of Rani in the night and to have sex with Rani and to disappear in the morning, right? To disappear in the morning. So a very sensual description of sex is there in the present drama. There is a description of thighs and backs and all those things, right? And Rani is totally satisfied, and her thirst for emotional and physical love is satisfied now. But again, let me tell you that she has no idea that she slept with a snake in the form of Apanna, that is her husband.
Husband.
And the story moves ahead again. And fortunately, Rani gets pregnant. Rani gets pregnant and she tells this good news to her husband Apanna. And what could be the response of Apanna? Can you guess?
शॉक झाला असेल तो.
Yes, he was shocked. Oh, dear lady, what are you talking about? I have not slept with you. I have not sexed with you. And how you could be pregnant? And Apanna becomes angry and he accuses her for adultery. Adultery. Adultery means extramarital affair. Vyabichar in Marathi. See, a characterless husband is charging his wife as of adultery. जो स्वतः बाहेर जाऊन व्याभिचार करतो आहे तो घरातल्या बायकोला कोणता आरोप लावतोय? व्याभिचाराचा. See the contradiction in the behavior of Apanna, isn't it? If adultery is done by a male or by a husband, it is a normal thing in our Indian society. But if the same adultery is done by a female, right, after marriage, the society is not ready to accept it, isn't it?
Yes.
So, see how the writer, the dramatist, develops the story, and at the same time, he criticizes the male dominance also, male mentality also, right? So Apanna gets angry. He accuses that you must have adultery, you must have some extramarital relationship, right? And he rejects that he is the father of this child, right? And he calls her a slut, S-L-U-T, slut. Slut means a prostitute, right? And he takes this matter to the village panchayat. Village panchayat. And he complains to the panchayat that I have not slept with my wife, not for a single moment, and how she can be pregnant. Right? So the matter is put forward to the panchayat. Right? What is panchayat?
खेडेगावामध्ये असते ना ग्रामपंचायत तसं.
No, that's not the gram panchayat. Panchayat
नाही
is
म्हणजे
made
ते
of
असं 5 जण असतात ना, 5 जण असतात ना, ते गावातले सगळ्यात सिनियर.
Yes.
सरपंच असतो त्याच्यातला एक.
Yes, yes. And this panchayat, tries to solve all the problems in the village. Right? The panchayat also punishes the criminal, the person who does some wrong thing, isn't it?
Yes.
So Panna complains to the panchayat about this, what you say, immoral pregnancy of his wife Rani. As we know that Rani has no idea that she was pregnant, she was made pregnant by whom?
Snake.
Snake. She has no idea that she slept with a snake. And Rani is totally shocked. Why this man, why my husband is not expecting, accepting that she is pregnant? She tries to clarify that she slept with him only, right? Like that. So the matter is taken to the village panchayat, and what happens over there, right? So he charges her of adultery, and he uses again the harsh words like, "Tell me, who is it? Who did you go to with your sari off?" Sari off means with whom you have thrown your clothes out, with whom you have shared your naked body, like that. So you haven't, and yet you have bloated tummy. Here, bloated tummy means enlarged tummy, right? Generally, a pregnant woman is having a big tummy, enlarged tummy, right? Right? So see how harsh word he uses. In our local language, it is called कोणाकडे जाऊन तोंड काळं केलंस, कुठे जाऊन शेण खाल्लंस, like that, right? And you think I will let you get away with that? Do you think that I will accept it? No, not at all. You shame me in front of the whole village. You darken my face. You slut. You have darkened my flesh. Right? माझ्या तोंडाला तू काळं फासला आहेस. You slut. And Apanna charges her by calling slut, S-L-U-T. It means prostitute. Right? So, innocent Rani starts crying. She has no other option. And let's stop over here, and we will continue the discussion in our next part.
Next lecture.